Well, hello and a warm welcome to today's listeners. Allow me to introduce myself as the host of today's episode. My name is Amanda Dounis. I am the founder of the Positive Thinking Clinic located in Wallow Creek, Sydney. Here at the Positive Thinking Clinic, I see clients of all ages. I see individuals, couples, families, and small groups. I conduct psychotherapy and I use a variety of modalities delivered through counselling techniques and hypnotherapy. I'm a professional counsellor, clinical hypnotherapist, strategic psychotherapist, early childhood teacher, and NLP master practitioner. To learn more about what I do and what I offer, visit my website on www.positivethinkingclinic.com.au. The easiest way to connect with me on social media is to search my name, Amanda Dounis, or my clinic name, Positive Thinking Clinic. You may also access my social media at the bottom of my website. I'm the author of My Coping Skills Handbook aimed at kids aged to 12 years of age, and I've also turned this into an online course. I have a range of podcasts that can be found on amandadounis.podbean.com. In addition to the Positive Thinking Clinic, I am the owner of 4 early learning centres. I'm passionate about quality care and emotional wellness of all ages. I believe we set the foundation for emotional wellness from a very young age. My early learning centres are licensed as Positive Living Skills Services. I also have an emotional wellness and kids Facebook group. One of my greatest hobbies is learning. I think I'm always enrolled in a variety of courses, no matter how small. I enjoy adding to my skill set. As an integrative therapist, I learn diverse skills and I select the best fit for any situation. If you wonder if I have any other hobbies, I am also into fitness. I've run a number of marathons, including 2 ultra marathons. So that's me in a nutshell. If you wanted to get in touch, you can use the contact form on my website, positivethinkingclinic.com.au. I would love to hear from you. Signing out and moving forward, you're listening to Amanda Dounis. Today we have George Pegios joining us. George Pegios is the founder of Help My Pain in Double Bay. His main interest is hypnosis for medical pain. He's done a diploma in hypnotherapy. He's a strategic psychotherapist and a master NLP practitioner. If you want to find out more about George Pegios, visit www.helpmypain.com.au. He is very interested in pain management, chronic fatigue, and fibromyalgia. He is also interested in writing and publishing. You can contact George through the website. You can also be part of his social media. Find him through Help My Pain on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube videos. George also studied at Sydney University doing his dental degree. He's since then done some consultant work. He's developed consumer products and he's had a variety of other interests. He loves the outdoors. He loves golf, scuba diving, and has also lived in Bali for 2 years. He was always interested in hypnosis. First, he started with the NLP course and then realised that his lecturer, Gordon Young, also offered hypnotherapy and strategic psychotherapy. He found this extremely interesting, especially the way that it impacts all aspects of human beings. Since then, George has furthered his knowledge doing a variety of other courses. So let's see today what expertise George can share with us today. Thank you. Okay, so we've got George Pegios. Hi, George. Welcome to today's program.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you for the invitation. I'm certainly looking forward to this.
Well, great, George. You know, I thought we'd speak about common misconceptions and misunderstandings that clients or individuals have about hypnotherapy. I've been experiencing the confusion because of the questions that some clients have been asking me before session. Have you encountered the same in your experience?
Actually, funny enough, I had a new client that came in last week that we kind of butted heads a little bit because of misconception. And her misconception was that she thought that all she had to do was turn up, sit there passively, and let me do my thing. And I had to explain to her that it's a little bit more involved than that. And we can't just simply zap people or do something to people without them really participating to some degree. And I think that a lot of that is propagated by what people see on TV or at movies or in stage shows about a total control by, you know, the hypnotist or the therapist.
Yeah, I agree there, George. To be quite honest with you, I wasn't able to explain exactly what a hypnotherapist was able to do until I actually became qualified and it was spelt out to me, because we are so exposed to what happens on TV and on all the live shows. And I know now that there's a clear difference. And one way that I clear that up in my clinic when I have a client make their first booking is I've written a blog on what hypnotherapy is, or maybe I've written 2 or 3, but I usually send them one just so that they have the opportunity to read exactly what to expect when they come along. Mm-hmm. If they don't read that, then obviously I have to explain in session before we do something. And I do find that, just like you said, sometimes they think they expected originally to just turn up and see what magic you as the therapist can do. But truthfully, the magic is within them, let's just say, where they're guiding them. And all hypnosis, as we've learned, is self-hypnosis. And I think another misconception is that they have to sleep. And I understand this part because that term has been thrown around through, mostly in America and the UK, I see that term is used. I don't use that in my clinic. Do you use it in your therapy, George? Sleep?
The word hypnosis?
No, sleep.
I sleep, I don't. I avoid that. That. But having said that, I've had a few people that I've had far too comfortable that have actually fallen asleep. And lucky in those instances, I was recording the session for a particular purpose, so I could give them to that. But obviously, that's not going to work.
No, that's right. I always remind my clients just before the session that it's an experience where their body is extremely relaxed, but they have extreme heightened and focused attention. And so it is quite possible that you may doze off and fall asleep. It's not very common, to be quite honest, because I really reinforce the being extremely mind alert. However, if I was to get an indication that my client has dozed off or fallen asleep, I say this before session and I get permission to maybe tap them on the shoulder, or I'll let them know that I'll make some other noise to make sure that they come out of that, because I don't want them in that state.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sorry, just going back, you said that you write a blog, or you send the client some information beforehand. Roughly what do you include there in that information?
I include a definition of what hypnotherapy is, my role, my expectations of myself and of them, and for them what to expect. And I'm pretty sure I also include some of the myths of what hypnotherapy is, what it isn't, what it's good for, and just so that at least they have a basic understanding. Because some clients have come for a session saying, oh, I've tried this therapy and that therapy, and now I thought I'll try hypnotherapy, but I don't know exactly what hypnotherapy is. And the reason why I give them that is because Well, that saves us 10 minutes in session explaining it. I'd rather than have the opportunity to read it, and then when they come into session, they ask me some questions for clarity.
Yeah.
So it's just groundwork before they actually come in for the first session.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes sense. And you get them up to speed as much as possible.
Yeah. Another misconception. Obviously, we covered special powers.
Another one that I get asked as well quite often is, do they lose control, or do we make them do things they don't want to do? Is it basically a mind control thing? And it's actually quite funny because even my daughter, I've suggested doing some basic work with her, and she doesn't want it because she actually fears that there's going to be mind control. It's actually quite funny.
Yeah, so I like to reassure clients who seem nervous about that at all stages of it, they are in total control. They can open their eyes, they can stand up, and they can walk out. I say that bluntly so that they know that they have total control the entire time and that we don't have any control over them. Just that we expect them to go with the experience and just see that it's relaxing, it's pleasant, and that we don't have any control over them. It's just a different style of therapy. In addition, because you brought it to my attention, sometimes they think that we may be able to get some deep secrets out of them, or that they can reveal things. And again, that comes to control. They have total control over what they say at all times. We cannot make them say anything or reveal any deep secrets. Have you ever had anybody that's concerned about that?
No, but I have heard it from other practitioners though, and just in general, yeah. But no one said that to me directly, no.
What about people who think or say or comment that they have to have a weak mind to be hypnotized? Have you heard that before?
I've heard of that, not directly. Again, no one said that to me, because most people don't think they've got a weak mind. But sometimes people can be too analytical, and they need to always be in control and constantly analyze exactly what you say, and that can work against them as well, because you're basically trying to get them in a relaxed state, and yet their mind is firing off on everything that's being said and done, and start questioning this, questioning that. And I've found that a bit limiting for some people.
George, funny you say that. I've had some experience with clients like that as well, where they come in, and because I'm a counsellor, sometimes we're not doing hypnotherapy and we're just doing counselling techniques. And I did have a client who had said, I do want to do hypnotherapy, but I'm such a control freak, I don't want to do it. And so eventually, after several sessions of gaining trust and being more interested in giving it a go, I then know that I just changed my induction at the beginning of hypnosis. And when I have someone that I know that they want to stay in control and yet they don't want to, because they know that you're not supposed to, you're supposed to, for the best experience, you should allow yourself to be safely vulnerable. So in my induction, I like to say, well, you can control as fast as you relax, or you can be in charge at all times of relaxing your mind. So I still give them that element of control during the induction, so that they can, it's their rapport with themselves and with me. And also, as you know, there's a number of different styles of induction, and with the analytical type clients, there's the confusion induction, which confuses me too. So I think that's really useful, because eventually the mind just wants to give up trying to analyze such a confusing, part of induction. You just say, okay, let me just be with the experience. And I guess we prompt them as to remember, just relax and just enjoy the experience, and let the controlling mind of yours just step aside and listen. It doesn't have to disappear. It's just so that we can access that part of your mind where we can reinforce any change that you want. That way they're in control of what they desire and what they're there for.
Yeah, and settle down the mind and eliminate some of that, chit chat that's not being very helpful, that they can really see it from just a different perspective.
Yeah, that's right. Perspective is everything. I think if they come in with one way of thinking and perceiving or interpreting, or their belief, which ultimately is a limiting belief, until they allow for their mind to become creative enough. I mean, going back to being weak-minded or strong-minded, I've read in the literature that it's quite often strong-minded people who do very well in hypnotherapy and in the session. But I don't have a belief that, you're either weak-minded or strong-minded. I think in certain areas you are stronger than others. So that means to me that you already possess that resource. We've just got to relay it into the situation that you're in now, whether it be doing a session on hypnosis.
Yeah.
Or daydreaming. Yeah, it's all focused attention, isn't it?
That's right. And another experience I had was a couple of experiences that I had as well with things that are a little bit different, where I had someone that was referred to me who had only been in the country for about a year and whose English was not that well. And I tried as much as I could, but I didn't want to overdo it as far as simplifying the language, but I was very conscious of what I was saying and, how I was saying things. And to my surprise, it worked quite well. So sometimes not having 100% grasp of the language isn't a barrier either, as long as, the message is basically in there, and as long as it's generally understandable and you've got the right pattern and approach to providing the therapy as well, that can work as well. It's not, I suppose, it's not guaranteed, but it can work.
Clearly, in that instance, you had good rapport with a client, because the client in that situation, or in every situation, has to be able to make their own meaning. So
yes,
it's good to hear that that was successful. Even given the slight language barrier, you still got the meaning across, and the client was able to create resource from that and change states. That's a very good success story.
It's interesting. And I was watching something on YouTube, a video by this professor, and he was saying, which I really had thought about, but I didn't quite understand it up until what he said, and that is, whenever two people communicate or other people communicate, you don't ever want 100% of the communication to go to the other person in 100% accurate. You need a little bit of ambiguity, because that's what the other person has, their own flavor, has their own experiences on things. And when they receive a message, they blend it somehow to fit to their narrative as well. So, what I'm trying to say is that it's not always, you don't always have to be 100% accurate in what you say, or have to be specific 100%, because there's so much that comes from the other person as well into that message as well. So you may say something that triggers something, or they see things, you say something to them, they hear it from a different perspective, and then they throw in part of their own experience into that as well. So I think it's actually quite beautiful how that interplay works, if you know what I mean.
I agree with that. Their own internal dialogue. Like, I know that when some clients have spoken to me specifically about where they are and where they need to go and what their resources were in other situations. So they give me a clear angle and formula of what to work with. But I always find very successful. Sometimes and only sometimes, I don't always do conversational hypnosis, but what I do like to do a lot of is your own internal dialogue. I find that fits in nicely with what you just said, where we give the suggestion, but I invite them to create their own interpretation or perception or their own language to repeat to themselves. And that's the part of self-hypnosis that I feel is very effective. So they can do that internally, they could do that as a whisper, or they can say that out loud. So yeah, I agree with you there. There's just so many different avenues that you can use. It's just a matter of being creative, having the rapport with the clients so that we know their style as well. And we can be as specific or not specific as we desire, because it's them that takes it and builds on that to create their change, so that it becomes personalized. And I guess that's the advantage of the way we deliver hypnotherapy, as opposed to the script work that some other hypnotherapists use, which maybe might give them great results as well, but that's not today's topic.
That's right. For another time.
That's for another time.
Yeah, and that's the power of movies and metaphors and stories, because when you're telling someone or they're watching something, they're putting themselves in that position. They're putting themselves in that story. They're putting themselves in that hero or heroine view of the world. So, and they participated, and you can measure it, and they've measured it, physiologically, that people insert themselves in stories, and that's why it's so beautiful, and that's why it's so powerful and effective.
Stories, I'm a great fan of stories. I didn't...
You taught me the two frog stories.
And ever since then, we've been exchanging all these stories. It's really good. Yeah. But I must say, like, I'm in childcare. I'm in the early childhood industry. And everything that we teach children is through stories. All the morals, all the values, all the sharing, all the feelings, absolutely everything. Even when we do a pre-mathematical experience with them or a pre-science, we do it through stories, whether it's from a book or we're just telling a story, or puppets, or through sand or Play-Doh. Anything we want to teach them is never through a logical conversation. It's only delivered through stories. And I guess, as you know, children at that age are unconsciously learning all of the time. And it just makes total sense that they learn all of this through stories. That's why we have to be rich with our literature and our books just to teach them. Yeah. And yet, like they say in hypnosis, the unconscious mind uses the language of imagination, and we deliver suggestions through storytelling so that the client can use their imagination and they come to find their solutions. So it like you said, it's beautiful. It is the right term that you're using to create change like that. I mean, someone comes in for smoking and we do hypnotherapy. We know it's very successful because having a logical conversation with someone who smokes isn't going to work. They're going to finish their last cigarette and they're going to go buy another one, regardless of the picture on the packet of cigarettes, because logic...
They've had as much logic as you can imagine. I mean, everyone's telling them they can read it anywhere. There's, it's all logical. That's right. Logic's not going to make the change.
Yeah, no, that's right. So it's really nice that hypnotherapy is a different pathway that can be beneficial to so many individuals who want to create change. Sometimes it's the right thing for them to do right now, or next year, or last year. It's just going to be the right time where they are willing to be the best client possible, which is be vulnerable to the experience safely. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's actually nice, be vulnerable to the experience.
That way I like to say that because it gives them permission to let their guard down and to know that don't come in with walls, because it's actually about letting go. And we can't do that if we're going to come in with all our armor and say, I'm not going to let you relax me. So we have that rapport and we have that agreement beforehand, and usually that works out quite nicely. It's really nice watching us deliver change, or watching the client learn their own skills and bring out their own resource to create their own results. It's really rewarding, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
So do you think we've covered absolutely everything that there is, or enough for
No,
today?
there's a couple more that I have, if
Okay,
that's
let's
okay
get
with
to
you.
it. That's fine, yeah.
All right. Well, the other misconception is if I'm put in hypnosis and something happens to the therapist, whether they leave the room or whether they have a heart attack and die, will I be stuck in hypnosis? Will I be stuck in that state? And of course, the answer is no, that you'll gradually, in your own time, come out of it.
That's
But
right.
I had an interesting experience with a younger lady. It was her third session, and by that stage, she'd become very comfortable with my voice and with what we were doing. And I placed her. She was in a very good state, of quite deep actually. And someone knocked on the door, which they're not supposed to do. And I went to answer it, and I was there for a bit of time. And I came back, and we resumed the session. And then when it finished, I asked her what her experience was. And she said, look, I could tell something was going on, but I just didn't care. Um, I was just enjoying the experience, just being really, really, really deeply relaxed. And she was almost cataleptic. In other words, pretty much, couldn't move at all, paralyzed almost.
And did you say to her, as you were going to go and answer the door, did you pace that way?
I apologized, and I said, look, I'm really sorry, but just take this time to just relax and focus your attention inwards. And I didn't have to do much, but we had good rapport there. So if that had happened to someone who was there for the first time, I don't know how it would have been. But again, these things happen. But going back to my original point was that some people do think or have the idea that they're hypnotized. It's like in the movies, and you stay hypnotized forever, which, as I said, just doesn't happen.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. And another point on noise and disturbances. We live much of our day through unconscious learning, and that's full of environmental noise. And a lot of the information that's tranced us through our entire experience in life has not come through uninterrupted silence, has it? Our fears, phobias, and our emotional encounters have often been out in public and with people surrounding us. So hypnosis works. I always tell my clients, I have a nice little cozy room, I call my therapy room, and I let them know that whatever sounds they hear is just a reminder that they're extremely awake. Because I have a train line at the back, and you can't usually hear a train go by, but you might hear a car go by and beep. And I know of other hypnotherapists in the city who constantly have fire brigades going past and lots of sound, and so we utilize it in our session, I know. But somehow in the beginning of my induction, I'd like to let them know, just in case anything happens and they do hear a knock, and I'm in a clinic with other rooms, and just in case someone decides to do a big laugh, then it's not a disturbance. It's okay. It's just part of your experience. Your experience is internal. And I say you can care less about any other sounds except my voice. So I like to prep them up that way as well.
Yeah. No, that's right. Yeah, you utilize it. And what I say when there's noise and there's people walking past in the corridor outside, or they can hear cars and trucks, I just say, just use this time listening to that, knowing that you don't have to be part of that anymore. Right here, right now, it's your time out from all that you don't have to engage in any of that. And pat it like that, so they know that it's, the more they hear it, the more it creates a barrier and a separation from that life, that external environment.
Yeah, that's right. Or we can blend it in and utilize it. I just only once I did this, and it fitted in nicely. Like, we did hear a train go past, because I do work in the evenings where it's kind of quiet, and it was at that appropriate time where I was suggesting that you can just put any thoughts on that train and just let it carry away, so that you can just,
use it that way.
we just use it that way. Or even if I did hear something really loud, I would often mention that, but relate it and let it be gone. Like, bark it away. For example, if it was a dog, I could utilize it that way. Or if there was once children laughing very loud, something must have been very funny, but we could hear the laughter, and I utilized that as well, like the sound of children, So I blended in with my stories, and that way it doesn't put any pressure on me. It's part of the experience, and it becomes very casual and just this, like I said, no pressure. That's the main part, I guess.
Yeah. And then the last thing that I had to say, there was an experience I've had is, I've heard it from a couple of people, and it's their particular excuse. And I don't mean to be disrespectful at all, because everyone's entitled to their own view, is that they're deeply religious, and they believe that hypnosis means that they're giving up their freedom of will, and that it allows someone to enter, or someone's influence to enter their mind and take away from them, or allow the devil to come in. So you need to be, we need to be respectful that certain people have certain views, and it can come up as a barrier. So obviously we'd have to work around it and just basically talk to, if they did want to come in for any help, we'd be talking to them, but we couldn't be doing anything along the lines of hypnosis, because they'd find that obviously very offensive, I suppose, because of their beliefs. Have you had that experience?
I haven't had that experience, to be honest with you, to that extreme. Although, as you say that, I do wonder what needs to be clarified. As you said that story, I just visualize myself diffusing those, just because they're not truths. Like, we're not allowing the devil in, or we're not.
Well, how do you know that?
Because we're
well,
hypnotherapists. We don't have that power.
Sorry, you haven't got that power.
Yeah, so we know that what we practice is safe. It's organic. Yes. It's even science-based. So we don't have the power to create any entities, or, we don't work in that field at all. So I think that your client in that regard obviously would appreciate some psychoeducation on what hypnotherapy is and what it isn't. So that way he or she can feel safe that this is a modality that it's just works on relaxing, looking at resource states, meeting goals, making changes in their behaviors, their ways of thinking, and yet their beliefs for religion or spirituality, for that matter, stays intact. Yeah. And I have done a lengthy component on multicultural counselling. So, I totally agree that it's very important to speak to clients about their beliefs, their customs, their religion, and that happens in our client intake form. And when we see something that stands out there, well, we discuss that with them before we do any kind of session. So I think that's dispelled right at the beginning of our very first session, so that when we do progress and say we're going to do a session on hypnotherapy, then they know that they're not doing anything wrong. Because if they feel they're doing anything wrong, it's best that we don't, because we don't want to cause any harm.
No, you don't want to cause anything like that, no. Any kind of conflict within that person.
So psychoeducation is really important for them to receive, to know what it is and what it is not. And then they can decide if hypnotherapy is the right thing for them or not.
Yeah. Because I, as well as experiencing it, I also read, I don't know, it was some website or some blog, Actually, no, it was one of the courses that I'm doing where people, it's an online course where practitioners have written questions of their own from their own experiences. One was that they had resistance from someone because of religious beliefs. Yeah. So that's why I thought about it today.
Yeah, and that's a very good topic. That's a very good thing to speak about. And I agree that some people, because of their beliefs, their religion, their spirituality, they're entitled to feel that they should ask as many questions as possible so that they can feel safe and to see, and to decide for themselves if this is the right pathway for them.
Yeah, yeah. And at the end of the day, what we're here for is basically for no other reason than to help them break through whatever they need to break through.
Mm.
Yeah.
So the purpose of today's episode was for any of our listeners to gain an understanding. I mean, there's been a lot of searching on the internet as to what it is not. And I think it's, even though that's available, some people like to see it on YouTube. And I know there's lots of resources out there on YouTube, or listen to an MP3 or podcast or whatever it is. And so we've done this short episode. We hope it's useful for our listeners, and for all of those listening out there. You've been listening to Amanda Dounis from the Positive Thinking Clinic and George Pegios from Help My Pain. So like we said at the beginning of the episode, if you want to reach out to us, you can contact us through our website and even connect on our social media, even if you just wanted to ask a question. So if there's anything else, George, on your end?
No, I just want to thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you too.
I think it worked out quite well.
I think so too. So maybe we'll get together and do another episode on a different topic. So I guess I'll see you soon. Thank you. Logging out now.